Windmere Lake was a black mirror beneath a storm-heavy sky. Lightning illuminated the silhouette of Ashford Manor, a sprawling Victorian estate perched on the shore like a sleeping giant. For decades, the house had been an inn, its reputation as quaint but eerie, attracting travelers who craved atmosphere over comfort. On Friday evening, 5 guests checked in, each unaware that they would become players in a deadly game. Jonathan Hale arrived first, a tall, broad man with a striking smile that never reached his eyes. A wealthy developer known for his ruthless deals, he demanded the Blue Chamber, the manor's finest room. Evelyn Ward, a young novelist with ink-stained hands, followed. She claimed she was there for creative solitude, but she seemed far too curious about every creak in the halls. Dr. Adrian Clark, a quiet surgeon in his 40s, came next. He carried only one suitcase and a medical journal. His eyes lingered too long on Jonathan. Sophia Duran, a traveling violinist, arrived dripping wet from the rain, her hands trembling as though the storm outside had followed her in. Finally, Margaret Hale, Jonathan's estranged wife, checked in. Her reservation shocked the staff. What wife stays in the same manor as the man who abandoned her for another woman? The caretaker, Oliver Pike, a wiry man with hollow cheeks, handed them their keys and muttered warnings about the storm. Best stay inside. This house remembers things. Dinner was served in the manor's candlelit dining hall. Thunder rattled the chandeliers while the guests ate roast lamb and stale wine. Conversations revealed tension. Evelyn asked pointed questions about Jonathan's past, jotting notes in her leather-bound book. Sophia refused to meet Jonathan's gaze, though his smirk suggested amusement. Margaret's smile was brittle as glass, her every word a blade aimed at Jonathan. Dr. Clark barely spoke, but when Jonathan joked about men who cut for a living, the doctor's jaw tightened. Later, as the storm cut the power, Jonathan retired to the Blue Chamber with a lantern. The rest remained downstairs, listening to the storm claw at the windows. By morning, Jonathan Hale would never wake again. At dawn, a scream shattered the silence. Oliver burst from the Blue Chamber, pale and shaking. Jonathan Hale lay dead on the bed, stabbed once through the chest. His shirt was soaked with blood, his eyes wide open in frozen shock. The lantern still burned beside him. The room was locked from the inside. The window bolted shut. No weapon in sight. Detective Clara Merritt arrived that afternoon. Short, composed, with eyes that missed nothing, she examined the body. One wound, direct to the heart. Clean, precise. She glanced at Dr. Clark. Almost surgical. The guests, now suspects, gathered in the grand hall. Clara began her questioning. Evelyn Ward, the young writer, admitted she had been researching Jonathan. He was involved in scandals, business partners ruined, families displaced.
He destroys people.
That's the kind of man I wanted to write about. In her notebook, Clara found sketches of the manor, detailed timelines of Jonathan's movements, and passages describing his death. Evelyn insisted they were fictional exercises. Dr. Adrian Clark, the surgeon, claimed he barely knew Jonathan. Yet Clara uncovered that Jonathan had invested in one of Clark's failed medical ventures, publicly humiliating him when it collapsed. A burned scalpel later discovered in the fireplace seemed to point directly to Clark. He denied ownership.
Sophia Duran.
Sophia confessed Jonathan had once been her lover. Years ago, he had promised to support her career, but instead used her, then abandoned her with nothing. A photograph hidden beneath Jonathan's pillow showed the two of them together, Sophia glaring at the camera, Jonathan smirking. When asked if she met Jonathan that night, her lips trembled. No, but he wanted to. Margaret Hale, Jonathan's estranged wife, claimed her stay was coincidental, but the bitterness in her voice betrayed her. She admitted Jonathan had taken everything in the divorce, leaving her with debts and humiliation. She swore she didn't see him the night he died. But Clara noticed her hand fidgeting with something in her pocket, a simple gold wedding band. Oliver Pike, the caretaker, revealed the Blue Chamber contained an old servant's passage leading to the library. But no one's used it in decades, he muttered. Dust along the edges of the passage said otherwise. Over the next 2 days, Clara pieced together fragments. The scalpel, though charred, bore faint initials. JH, Jonathan's. Why would he own a surgical blade? The wedding band Jonathan always wore was missing. Margaret, when pressed, claimed she hadn't seen it. The photograph suggested a meeting with Sophia, but why hide it under his pillow? Evelyn's notebook contained details she should not have known, such as the hidden passage. And then there was the locked room itself. How had the killer escaped? At midnight, Clara retraced the killer's path. She discovered that the blue chamber's lock could be turned from inside the passage with a bent piece of wire, a trick Jonathan himself may have once known. The killer hadn't needed to vanish. They had simply slipped into the passage, locked the door from the inside, and disappeared into the library. But the precision of the stab haunted Clara. Not a crime of passion. Not clumsy. Perfectly placed. She gathered the suspects once more. Clara spoke slowly, watching their faces. Jonathan Hale was a cruel man. Each of you had reason to hate him, but only one of you struck the final blow. She turned to Dr. Clark first. The scalpel pointed to you. Too obvious. It wasn't yours. Jonathan stole it weeks ago. He liked keeping trophies. To Evelyn. Your notebook is disturbing, but your words were just that, words. You watched, you wrote, but you didn't kill. To Sophia. You loved him once, and you hated him, but the cut was not yours. Your hands trembled too much. Finally, Clara looked at Margaret Hale. You said Jonathan never removed his ring, but when you argued that night, it was already gone. Do you know why? Because you took it after you killed him. Margaret's face crumbled. Clara continued. You followed him through the passage. He mocked you, belittled you. You stabbed him with a scalpel he had stolen, locked the door behind you, and left the blade in the fire. And the ring? You couldn't resist keeping it, a trophy of your own. Margaret fell to her knees, sobbing. He ruined me, ruined all of us. I only gave him what he deserved. Margaret was taken into custody. The others left the manor, carrying their own scars. Evelyn whispered to Clara before leaving. Sometimes truth makes the best fiction. Sometimes fiction makes the best truth. That night, alone in her office, Clara placed the case file in a drawer. She paused, staring at Jonathan's photograph. Something unsettled her. Jonathan's smile. Wide, sharp, and unbroken. As though, even in death, he was still in control.